What's going on, guys? Twig and Timber Outdoors, and I'm going to show you guys my favorite ways to rig nymph rigs when you want to fish different types of water. So what I'm going to show you guys is a couple of my favorite ways to rig your leader for either whether it be tightline, Euro style nymphing, or just as a dropper underneath a hopper dropper or a dry dropper rig. But regardless, I'm going to show you the bottom half of what it is that I use whenever I'm fishing these types of waters. So for today, so that you can see better, I'll go ahead and I'll use some 2X. Rather than using some kind of special line, I figured it's just better to show you for real what it is that I do on a regular basis. So, alright, here we go. So I'm going to go ahead and say this is my main line here. Okay? This runs all the way to either my tied leader or my tapered leader. And this is my tippet section. Now, if I'm going to fish 5-foot depth, okay, do your calculations. Usually we want to have our tippet about 1.5 times the length, or the depth rather, the length as is that you're fishing the depth. But today I'm just going to do basic little snippets for you here. So here's my tippet leading off of my leader. Now what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take my first fly. We'll say for today that we're going to be using just some really inexpensive WETFLY style patterns. We'll go with a yellow wing, a white wing, and a black wing. We'll just say that. Now, if I'm going to fish, I want to get down, especially in the winter, during December, I want to get down. I'm going to try and measure out to where my personal preference is 6 inches apart when they line up. Now, if you think of it this way, if you are drifting across this way, the stream is taking the current this way, you want to set it up to where remember, your line's going to kind of do this in the water. Your rod might be up here, but it's going to drift behind because underwater the current is slower. Remember that. So if I think of it this way, if I'm going to fish, hypothetically, my black, then my yellow, then my white, okay? Whatever method you use, you want these to be drifting about maybe 6 inches apart. I think 6 inches is enough to avoid foul hooking your fish, but also it's close enough to where they will see different, imitations in the water column. So, first method we can use is just a direct line in. Now, how we're going to do that is we're going to take the first fly in our pattern, and we're going to tie it. Say we want it to be, it's 18 inches above, right? We said that. So we're going to take our tippet. We're going to bring it up to about where we want it to fish, and we're going to tie just a overhand, or you can either tie an overhand, you can tie a non-slip mono, you can tie whatever knot you'd like, but typically I like to use either a fisherman's knot, which is just your standard knot. And then from there, I'm going to go down another 6 inches, and I'm going to tie on the yellow, which I think we said was going to be second, I believe, correct? And we're going to, for now, I'm just going to throw an overhand in to do this quickly for you, okay? So we're just going to, I would not recommend using an overhand knot, but if you are not confident in your knots, okay, this will at least get you the idea. Okay, and then lastly, at the end, I'm going to attach our final fly. Now, this method's very easy to set up. It does connect with fish, especially in riffles where the water is fast, or not riffles, runs where the water is fast, and it's fairly nice when you're looking at a less messy method to rig. Some downfalls, though, is it's less imitative of natural drift. So fishing in fast water will probably be just fine, but if you've got really technical water, this might not be the best method. However, I catch so many fish on this method, it's hard for me not to recommend that you at least try it in fast-moving water. Now, this is, if you're fishing with weighted flies, you can definitely do that. Now, if you're fishing with split shot, I typically like to take my split shot and I like to put it right in the middle of that last fly and the second to last fly, like so. Why? Well, you want the weight towards the bottom half of your rig, and in New York, which is where most of the time I fish, it's there. I believe you have to have some kind of hook after your weight. Okay, so in this case, these would be my heavy bits, and this would be an unweighted fly that would flutter in the back, unless I really needed to get down. So that's my direct line through method, and it works wonders in fast-moving water, and it's very, very clean. So you don't often snag, or follow up on your own tippet. Now the next method, which I think is appropriate, but it also can be a little more time-consuming, works really well for finicky fish. So we've got our length of tippet here, and what we're going to be doing is instead of pulling out the entire length of line of tippet that you need, okay, you're only going to pull out about 6 inches more than what you would typically have to your first fly. So if this is my first fly, this black one again, and I want it to be about here, I'm going to pull out a few extra inches of material. Okay? And then from there, I'm going to attach that to my line. Now, what we're going to be doing is we're going to take this, the piece that's attached to the line or the leader. We're going to pull out about an equal amount of tippet again. And we're going to go ahead and snip that from our spool. We're going to tie a surgeon's loop, making sure that we add a nice long extra tag end. So you've got your double surgeon's loop here. Okay, you got 2 tag ends. You're going to take, and obviously it could be a little longer, you're going to take your tag end that heads away from your line, and you're going to tie on your first fly. For right now, obviously you would never just use an overhand knot, but for right now I just want to get this done. And then you're going to snip the excess tag off of the top section, leaving you with a dangling fly. You're going to repeat that process again for the next fly and the next fly. And once I have that second knot done, the final one, you're going to just tie on your point fly if you're fishing with weighted flies, or your final fly if all you're going to be doing is adding some split shot. So here we have our rig. From our point, or from our line, we have 1, 2, and then attached right directly to our point fly. And between there, if you add split shot, this is where I would add it between your point fly and your second to last fly. This one follows up a little more, but not terribly, especially if your tag ends are angled well and they're far enough, they're close enough rather to the main line, but it drifts a little naturally. It is more likely to follow up than the first method and get snagged, but I think it's a great compromise between this and running multiple longer tailing ends from a nymph rig. Hopefully this video is Hopefully the video was informative. If it was, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Check out the other videos in the playlist. And until next time, guys, catch you guys on the flip side. Tight lines, and we're out.